When the human she selected unveiled his power, the alien queen, HFY Stories, the grand palace of the alien queen stretched across the sky like a living constellation. Its towers shimmered with silvery light, reflecting the stars above. Every hall, every corridor, every chamber spoke of power, history, and the weight of responsibility. The alien race she ruled had built a civilization that spanned countless star systems. They were advanced in technology, art, and war, and their society was guided by strict rules, long-standing traditions, and the wisdom of those who had lived for centuries. Yet, despite all of that, the queen faced a choice that made even her ancient mind falter. It was the season of selection, a time when the alien queen had to choose an emissary, a representative from another species who could speak, negotiate, and act in her name across the galaxy. The choice was more than symbolic. It could shape alliances, prevent wars, and even influence the survival of her empire. Usually, such selections were obvious. Candidates were chosen from those who had proven strength, intelligence, or unique powers. But this time, the options were different. Among all the beings presented, one stood out not for his might, his beauty, or his advanced skills, but for something almost invisible: his humanity. Kale, a human, was unlike any candidate the alien queen had ever seen. He was quiet, thoughtful, and unassuming. He walked into the selection hall with no display of power, no armor gleaming under the alien lights, and no aura of command that most leaders carried. Some of the alien ministers whispered as he entered. "A human? Really?" they said. "We need someone who can bend the galaxy to her will, not a fragile creature from a primitive world." Yet the queen's eyes did not shift to the ministers or the elaborate displays of other candidates. Her gaze stayed on Kale. There was something in the way he observed the palace, not with fear or awe, but with attention, curiosity, and respect. He did not fumble with the unfamiliar surroundings. He did not speak boastfully, trying to impress the court. Instead, he simply walked calmly, studied the faces around him, and acknowledged the grandeur without being overwhelmed. The selection ceremony began. Other candidates demonstrated their skills first. One alien manipulated energy fields, creating brilliant lights that danced like living beings. Another commanded mechanical constructs with perfect precision. The ministers nodded and murmured in approval. Kale waited. When his turn came, he simply stepped forward, bowed respectfully, and spoke in the common galactic language. "I am Kale," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "I do not claim to be the strongest or the most skilled among you. I can only offer honesty, courage, and a willingness to learn. If I fail, I will accept the consequences. If I succeed, I will serve the Empire to the best of my ability." The hall fell silent. The words were simple, almost modest, but they carried weight. They were not filled with arrogance or empty promises. They spoke of character, integrity, and courage, the qualities that could not be faked or copied. The alien queen leaned slightly forward on her throne. This human, so small in stature compared to her towering ministers, had said more in a few sentences than many beings with centuries of experience could convey. The ministers exchanged uneasy glances. Some were annoyed. "Is this a joke?" one whispered. "He is a human. He cannot understand our ways. He is weak." Another shook their head. "He does not even display the slightest power. How can she consider him?" But the queen remained silent, observing Kale as if trying to peer beyond what was visible. She had ruled for centuries and had seen many cunning, many deceitful, many powerful beings. And yet she felt a quiet certainty that Kale was different. His lack of display was not weakness. It was restraint, clarity, and focus. In him she sensed a spark, a potential that could not yet be measured or tested. After a long deliberation that seemed to stretch time itself, the queen rose from her throne. Her presence alone caused the murmurs in the hall to die down. She looked at Kale directly. "You," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "will be my emissary. You will represent my empire across the galaxy. You will have access to our knowledge, our technology, and our support. Fail not, for failure is not only yours but mine as well." A hush fell over the hall. The ministers' faces were filled with shock, disbelief, and some anger. A human, to be chosen over the strongest and most skilled candidates. It was unheard of. Some could not contain their murmurs, but the queen's gaze silenced them. In her eyes was an unspoken command. This decision was final. Kale bowed deeply. "I will serve with honor," he said. There was no pride, no arrogance, only sincerity. The queen nodded once, almost imperceptibly, and the ceremony concluded. The court erupted into whispers and speculations. Some ministers protested in private councils, suggesting that a human could never handle the responsibilities of such a role. Others, more cautious, decided to observe Kale quietly before passing judgment. In the days that followed, Kale began his training. The palace, though magnificent, was alien in every sense. He had to learn the languages, understand political protocols, study alien customs, and navigate a society that was more complex than anything on Earth. The other candidates, now assigned to different roles, often looked at him skeptically, some even openly doubting his abilities. Yet Kale faced every challenge with patience and determination. He did not try to impress, nor did he complain. He asked questions when needed, listened attentively, and observed the smallest details. He discovered patterns in the way the aliens spoke, how they moved, and even how their technology responded to emotion and thought. While others relied solely on raw power or tradition, Kale used reasoning and empathy to understand the world around him. The queen watched him quietly. She had seen many candidates fail despite incredible power. Strength alone was never enough. She saw in Kale something rare, the ability to think beyond immediate gains, to see consequences, and to act with integrity even when no one was watching. This was not a gift of alien technology or innate power. It was human ingenuity and morality, combined with courage. One evening, the queen summoned Kale to the private gardens of the palace. The gardens floated above the city, with bioluminescent plants and waterfalls that glowed under the alien moonlight. Kale marveled at the beauty, but he did not lose his composure. He stood attentively as the queen approached. "You are unlike any human I have ever known," she said. Her voice was softer now, almost contemplative. "Most of your kind are driven by survival, ambition, or fear. You carry something different. A clarity of purpose and an honesty of spirit that I have not seen in centuries." Kale nodded respectfully. "I only wish to serve your majesty. I do not understand all of your ways yet, but I will learn. I will not fail." The queen studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly as if peering into his mind. "You may not realize it, but your presence here challenges everything the Empire has believed about humans. Your species is underestimated, often dismissed, yet here you are, standing calmly while others strive to impress with force. That calmness, that restraint, it may be your greatest power." Kale felt the weight of her words but remained steady. He did not claim any greatness, only readiness to learn and to act when needed. The queen seemed satisfied. She turned her gaze toward the distant horizon, where the stars stretched infinitely. "There are storms approaching," she said quietly. "Threats that not even my best generals can foresee. You may yet be tested in ways neither of us can predict." Kale looked at her, determination in his eyes. "Then I will face them, your majesty. Whatever comes, I will do my part." The queen nodded. There was a brief silence as the alien night settled around them, the glowing gardens casting long, mysterious shadows. For the first time in her long reign, she felt a flicker of hope, not from power, not from strategy, but from a human who dared to stand with honesty and courage. As days turned into weeks, Kale's presence continued to provoke curiosity and tension within the palace. Some alien ministers continued to whisper. Some began to observe quietly, and others started to see the value of his insight. Kale was not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most technologically gifted, but he had something more difficult to cultivate: a mind that saw connections others missed, a heart that understood loyalty and justice, and the courage to act without hesitation when needed. Even the queen, who had witnessed centuries of betrayal, conquest, and diplomacy, found herself reflecting on the human's quiet strength. She had chosen him for reasons beyond immediate comprehension. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was judgment honed over countless years, or perhaps it was something more profound: a recognition that the universe sometimes needed a new kind of power, one not based on might but on wisdom, courage, and integrity. And so Kale's journey began, not as a warrior, not as a prodigy, but as a human in an alien world. A world that underestimated him, doubted him, and yet would soon witness the depths of his unseen power. The palace buzzed with expectation, the ministers whispered anxiously, and the queen watched, knowing that the first step of a remarkable path had been taken. Kale did not yet know what challenges awaited. Rogue fleets, political intrigue, or ancient threats might soon test him beyond imagination. But he did know one thing: he would not falter. He would face whatever came with courage, clarity, and the honesty that had already begun to change the way an entire empire viewed humans. In the quiet of the palace gardens, under the glowing alien sky, a bond began to form, one between a human and the queen, one that would shape the fate of stars, and one that would reveal a hidden potential the galaxy had never seen. Kale, the unassuming human, was about to change the course of history, though neither he nor anyone else could yet imagine how. Kale's first days in the palace were filled with surprises, challenges, and small victories. Every corner he turned revealed wonders beyond anything he had imagined back on Earth. The walls shimmered with light that seemed alive, and the floors hummed faintly, responding to movement as though the palace itself were aware of him. Strange plants glowed softly, their leaves moving as if listening, and fountains poured water that sparkled like liquid crystal under alien moons. Yet, for all the beauty, Kale's mind remained focused on learning, understanding, and proving himself worthy of the queen's choice. The palace was more than a home, it was a world within a world. Alien servants moved with quiet precision, their movements almost musical. Kale observed carefully, learning their routines, their gestures, and the subtle ways they communicated with each other. He noticed that their society relied not only on words, but on gestures, thoughts, and even energy patterns. One misstep, he realized, could signal disrespect or misunderstanding. Kale's training began in earnest. Unlike the other candidates who had relied on technology or brute power, he had to rely on observation, reasoning, and empathy. The queen had assigned a council of elders to teach him the languages of various star systems, the history of the empire, and the intricacies of its politics. At first, the lessons were overwhelming. The history stretched back thousands of years, filled with wars, treaties, and alliances. The languages were complex, with tones, gestures, and even vibrations that humans could only imitate with great care. Yet Kale did not give up. Each day he studied patiently, asking questions when something was unclear. He practiced the languages aloud, learning to reproduce sounds that seemed impossible. He memorized customs and protocols, learning when to bow, when to remain still, and when to speak. The other candidates often mocked him at first. "Why waste your time?" they said. "Humans cannot survive in our world, you will fail." But Kale ignored the whispers. He knew that strength alone was not enough. Understanding and insight were his greatest tools. The queen observed him quietly, sometimes from afar, sometimes closer, as if measuring his responses to challenges she herself might never face. She noticed that Kale did not react with fear, impatience, or arrogance. Instead, he adapted, learned, and applied his knowledge in ways that seemed almost instinctive. One day, during a complex exercise involving negotiation between two alien factions, Kale noticed a small gesture, almost imperceptible, that revealed a hidden tension between them. While others argued over words and formalities, Kale addressed the root of the conflict with calm reasoning, diffusing hostility without confrontation. The elders were stunned. How did he see that? One muttered. No one in decades has noticed it. The queen's lips curved slightly. She knew that Kale's value lay not in strength or speed but in perception, intuition, and integrity. Outside the palace, the galaxy continued its constant motion. Trade routes, disputes, and conflicts unfolded, and Kale's training often intersected with real-world situations. The Queen sometimes called him to observe diplomatic meetings, where leaders of other species brought complaints, proposals, and demands. At first, Kale felt out of place among the aliens, who often relied on intimidation, tradition, or threats to sway decisions. But he listened carefully, noted details others overlooked, and asked questions that exposed hidden motives or overlooked possibilities. In one particularly tense meeting, representatives from a neighboring system arrived, angry about a border dispute. Their leader, a tall, armored alien with glowing eyes, spoke harshly, demanding concessions. The council grew anxious. Even the Queen's advisors hesitated to respond. Kale, however, noticed a subtle flicker in the leader's posture, a hesitation in the tone, a twitch in the energy patterns around him. Speaking carefully, Kale suggested a compromise that addressed the leader's hidden concerns without sacrificing the empire's interests. The result was astonishing. The neighboring leader accepted the proposal, visibly relieved. The council, who had doubted Kale's abilities, now looked at him with cautious respect. Even some of the ministers who had been openly critical began to reconsider their judgments. The Queen, watching silently, felt a sense of pride. She had chosen wisely. This human, so unassuming, could achieve results that even centuries of alien experience had failed to accomplish. Kale's influence grew gradually. He did not seek it, nor did he demand attention. It came because his actions consistently produced outcomes that benefited all parties. Slowly, allies began to notice his calm presence, his clarity of thought, and his ability to see beyond immediate concerns. He began to participate in strategy sessions, providing insight not through force or intimidation, but through logic, empathy, and observation. Not all were pleased. Some ministers and military commanders still whispered their doubts. "A human cannot understand our ways," one said. "We are centuries ahead in strategy and technology. He is only a curiosity." But Kale continued quietly, letting his results speak for themselves. He did not boast, did not seek glory, and did not retaliate. His human humility became his quiet strength, and over time, even skeptics could not ignore the impact of his presence. Meanwhile, the Queen faced pressures she had never experienced before. Other civilizations watched her choice with suspicion and curiosity. Some questioned her judgment openly, while others plotted in secrecy, hoping to exploit what they perceived as a weakness. The Queen, who had faced countless threats and conspiracies in her long reign, began to see a new kind of strength emerging in her court, not from her soldiers, generals, or technology, but from a human who understood the power of integrity and wisdom. One night, the Queen summoned Kale to the observation deck, a platform that hovered above the palace gardens, offering a view of the distant stars. The air was warm, filled with the gentle scent of alien blossoms that glowed softly under the twin moons. Kale stood attentively as the Queen approached, her expression unreadable. "You have adapted well," she said quietly. "You understand more than most of my own people at this stage. Your insights into diplomacy, strategy, and human behavior are remarkable." Kale bowed slightly. "I am still learning, Your Majesty. There is much I do not yet understand about your world, your people, or the galaxy." The Queen's eyes softened. "That is true," she said. "But even in what you do not know, you show qualities that most beings take centuries to cultivate. Patience, observation, empathy, and courage. These are the traits that make you valuable, not just to me, but to the galaxy itself." Kale felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. He had never considered himself remarkable. On Earth, he had lived an ordinary life, solving ordinary problems, helping those he could. Yet here, in a palace of light and stars, he realized that his humanity, the very qualities often overlooked, was a rare and powerful tool. The Queen continued, "There are those who doubt you. There are those who will attempt to undermine you. There will be situations that challenge not only your skills but your morality, your resolve, and your courage. You must be ready to face them, Kale. Your actions will shape more than your own destiny. They will influence the fate of countless lives." Kale nodded. "I understand. I will do my best." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Do not underestimate yourself," she said finally. "You may be human, but in ways others cannot see, you are capable of extraordinary things. The galaxy often mistakes strength for power, but true power is understanding, courage, and action guided by reason and conscience. You possess that, Kale. Never forget it." Over the following weeks, Kale's training continued, but the real lessons began to emerge in unexpected ways. He was assigned to observe the Empire's defense systems, a complex network of technology that could manipulate energy, matter, and even gravitational fields. The machines were alien beyond comprehension, yet Kale approached them not with fear, but with curiosity. He studied patterns, learned how the systems responded to thought and emotion, and discovered small inefficiencies that even seasoned technicians had overlooked. One evening, a minor malfunction in the defense grid caused concern among the technicians. They feared it could be a prelude to sabotage. Kale, without hesitation, analyzed the problem, traced the anomaly, and suggested a correction that prevented any damage. The engineers were astonished. "No one has solved this issue so quickly," one said. "Even our best specialists struggled for days." Kale shrugged. "I only looked carefully and thought logically. Sometimes solutions are hidden in plain sight." The Queen, who had observed the incident from her chambers, allowed herself a small smile. She had chosen a human who did not rely on traditional measures of power, yet whose intellect, intuition, and morality allowed him to excel in ways no one could anticipate. Through all of this, Kale remained humble. He did not seek praise or recognition. He acted because it was the right thing to do, because he understood that his presence mattered not for personal gain, but for the well-being of countless beings across the galaxy. His quiet determination began to inspire others, even those who had initially doubted him. Some of the alien ministers, once critical, now consulted him discreetly, valuing his perspective. Kale's relationship with the Queen deepened. They spoke often, not only of diplomacy and strategy but of ethics, responsibility, and vision. She shared her burdens with him, the loneliness of power, the constant threats to her empire, and the weight of decisions that could affect millions of lives. Kale listened, offering perspective and empathy. He did not claim to have all the answers, but his insight often illuminated paths that others had missed. For the Queen, these interactions were rare and valuable. She had seen many advisors, generals, and counselors come and go, each bringing ambition, cunning, or desire for recognition. Kale brought none of that. He brought clarity, honesty, and courage. In a world where power often corrupted and destroyed, he remained steadfast, a reminder of what leadership could aspire to be. As the days passed, Kale's presence in the palace became a quiet force of change. Alien factions began to interact differently, guided by his influence and example. Diplomats listened more carefully, generals considered his advice, and even the ministers who had once doubted him found themselves reevaluating their assumptions. The human the Queen had selected was not just surviving, He was reshaping the court in ways no one could have predicted. And yet, Kale remained aware that greater challenges lay ahead. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats both seen and unseen. Rogue fleets, political conspiracies, and ancient rivalries could erupt at any moment. Kale knew that his ability to observe, understand, and act would be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. But he also knew one truth. He would face these challenges with courage, clarity, and a dedication to doing what was right, no matter the cost. In the quiet moments, when he stood in the palace gardens under alien moons, Kale reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a simple life on a distant planet to the halls of an empire that spanned the stars, he realized that being human was not a weakness, it was his strength. His ability to think, to feel, to act with integrity, and to face the unknown with courage made him more capable than anyone had expected. The Queen, watching from a distance, recognized it too. The human she had chosen was no ordinary being. In his calm, unassuming way, Kale had begun to show the first signs of a power far greater than brute force or advanced technology. The power of wisdom, courage, and the quiet strength of the human spirit. The days that followed Kale's quiet successes in the palace were filled with whispers, anticipation, and a growing sense of unease. Even as he adapted to the alien world and impressed the court with his insight, the galaxy beyond the palace walls remained unpredictable and dangerous. Reports began to arrive from the edge of the empire, strange anomalies in space, uncharted fleets moving in unusual patterns, and whispers of a rogue faction that had long been dormant. The alien queen, who had ruled for centuries and seen countless threats, understood immediately that this was no ordinary disturbance. She called an urgent council, summoning generals, ministers, and Kale. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with monitors displaying star systems, fleets, and energy readings that pulsed with colors beyond human imagination. The council members argued fiercely. Some insisted on immediate military action, deploying fleets to intercept any threat before it could grow. Others suggested waiting, monitoring, and gathering intelligence, arguing that rash action could provoke war. The tension in the room was palpable. Kale listened quietly. He had learned to observe, to wait, and to understand the motivations of those around him. He noticed subtle patterns others missed. The way the rogue fleet avoided certain regions, the way energy readings fluctuated, and the careful communication between ships that suggested a plan more complex than simple aggression. While the ministers debated loudly, Kale began to piece together a strategy in his mind. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm but carried authority. "We cannot respond with force alone," he said. "The fleet is not just aggressive, it is cautious. They are testing our defenses, gathering information, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. If we act purely out of fear, we risk playing into their plan. There is another way, a way to defend our systems while minimizing risk and preventing bloodshed." The council fell silent. No one had expected a human to suggest an alternative. Some generals frowned, skeptical of his lack of conventional experience. The Queen's eyes, however, were fixed on Kale. She had chosen him because she saw beyond the obvious, and now he was proving why. Kale outlined a plan. It was not flashy or forceful, but it was precise. He proposed a system of strategic deterrence, using energy fields, sensor networks, and calculated maneuvers to guide the rogue fleet's path without direct confrontation. He suggested measures to protect key planets, reroute civilian traffic, and establish communication channels that could reveal intentions without risking lives. Every step of the plan relied on observation, prediction, and understanding, rather than brute force. Some ministers remained skeptical, questioning whether a human strategy could handle the complexity of interstellar conflict. "He is clever," one said, "but this is war. Humans are fragile." Can he really control forces that could destroy entire systems? Kale did not respond defensively. Instead, he demonstrated. Using the palace's tactical simulations, he projected the fleet's movements and implemented his plan in real time. The simulation revealed hidden dangers, potential ambushes, and weaknesses in both the rogue fleet and the Empire's defenses. Kale adjusted calculations, rerouted virtual forces, and coordinated resources with precision that astonished even the most seasoned generals. By the end of the demonstration, the council could not deny the effectiveness of his strategy. The queen rose from her throne, her expression calm but commanding. Kale has demonstrated insight that goes beyond mere human reasoning, she said. His plan balances defense and diplomacy, strength and wisdom. We will follow it. Begin preparations immediately. Over the next days, Kale worked tirelessly alongside alien engineers, tacticians, and communication specialists. He learned the intricacies of alien energy fields, the delicate balance of planetary defenses, and the subtle ways ships could be maneuvered without detection. The more he learned, the more he realized that his human perspective, focused on observation, pattern recognition, and empathy, offered solutions that even advanced alien minds had overlooked. Then came the day the rogue fleet approached. Sensors lit up the palace like a storm of colors, displaying dozens of ships moving in formation. Their intent was unclear. Some vessels approached cautiously, while others maintained distance, scanning and probing. The tension in the command chamber was thick. Generals prepared weapons, while ministers debated possible messages to send. Kale stood quietly, reviewing data and noting small inconsistencies in the fleet's patterns. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. A smaller vessel moving independently from the fleet attempted to breach the outer defense perimeter. The alien commanders shouted orders, preparing for immediate attack. Kale raised his hand. "Wait," he said. "It is not an attack. Observe the energy signature. It is different. This ship is testing, not striking." The queen looked at him, her eyes narrowed. Kale continued. "If we respond with aggression, we will provoke conflict. If we allow it to pass and adjust our defenses subtly, we can guide the fleet's actions without combat. Trust the patterns, not assumptions." For a moment, no one moved. Then Kale activated the defense systems, not to fire weapons, but to subtly shift energy fields, creating invisible barriers that guided the rogue vessel along a safe path that kept the perimeter intact. The vessel adjusted its trajectory without realizing it had been influenced. The tension in the chamber eased slightly as the simulation proved true. Kale's understanding of patterns and subtle influence was effective in real-world application. Over the next several days, Kale coordinated defenses, monitored communications, and predicted fleet movements. His calm, methodical approach kept the palace, its planets, and its people safe without a single shot fired. Alien commanders watched in awe as a human managed forces far more complex than most beings could comprehend, using intellect, insight, and understanding rather than overwhelming power. Meanwhile, the queen observed closely. She had chosen Kale for his character, not his strength, yet his actions now revealed a hidden depth of power that she had only glimpsed before. He was not just clever, he had the ability to unify intelligence, intuition, and decisive action in a way that even the Empire's most advanced systems could not anticipate. The rogue fleet, realizing its usual tactics would not work, attempted direct negotiation. Kale's understanding of their movements, motivations, and subtle cues allowed the Queen to communicate effectively with the fleet's leaders. The negotiations were tense, but Kale's counsel helped prevent escalation. The fleet agreed to retreat under careful terms, avoiding conflict and preserving the lives of thousands. When the threat was finally resolved, the palace erupted in relief and admiration. Generals, ministers, and technicians all acknowledged Kale's contributions. For the first time, many who had doubted him openly expressed respect. The Queen's selection of a human, once seen as risky or unwise, had been validated in the most dramatic way possible. Even after the fleet's retreat, Kale's role was not over. He began helping to repair planetary defenses, optimize communication networks, and strengthen diplomatic ties to prevent future threats. Every step he took reinforced the idea that human ingenuity, when guided by empathy and reason, could achieve what brute force or advanced technology alone could not. The Queen, meanwhile, called Kale to her private chambers. She stood silently for a moment, observing him as he reported on the final status of the defenses and communications. "You have done more than I anticipated," she said softly. "Your understanding, your foresight, and your courage have saved countless lives and prevented what could have been a catastrophic war. I knew humans were underestimated, but even I did not realize the depths of their potential." Kale felt a mixture of humility and responsibility. "I only did what seemed right," he said. "I used what I could observe and understand. I never wanted recognition, only to help." The Queen nodded. "That is why you are exceptional. True power is not measured by destruction or dominance, but by the ability to act with clarity, morality, and courage. You have shown that humans, though often dismissed, possess a kind of strength that can change the course of history." As Kale looked out over the galaxy from the Queen's chambers, he realized that this was only the beginning. The rogue fleet was just one challenge among many. Political intrigues, hidden threats, and ancient rivalries awaited. But he also understood that his perspective, the combination of human intuition, morality, and analytical thinking, was a tool unlike any other. It could bridge gaps, solve problems, and protect lives in ways that raw power alone could never achieve. The Queen continued to observe him, her respect and curiosity growing with each passing day. She had seen centuries of conquest, diplomacy, and betrayal, yet Kale's presence introduced a new dimension to leadership. One human, acting with integrity and insight, could influence outcomes on a scale that even the most advanced alien minds struggled to comprehend. The events of the past weeks spread across the Empire quietly at first, then more widely. Alien citizens and diplomats began to speak of the human emissary with respect and intrigue. Stories of his calm, precise, and humane solutions circulated in whispers through the palace corridors, inspiring hope and curiosity. Even those who had doubted him now wondered if they had misjudged the human race entirely. Kale did not seek recognition or power. He acted because it was necessary, because he understood that true leadership was not about domination, but about responsibility, intelligence, and morality. The palace began to shift subtly in response to his presence. Decisions became more measured, alliances more thoughtful, and disputes resolved with less violence and more insight. His influence was quiet but undeniable. At night, Kale often walked alone through the palace gardens. The glowing plants, gentle waters, and alien moons provided a moment of peace. He reflected on what had occurred, the threats averted, the rogue fleet managed, and the Empire spared from unnecessary bloodshed. He understood now that his role was not merely to follow orders, but to anticipate, to guide, and to act in ways that honored both his humanity and the trust placed in him. The Queen joined him one evening, standing silently beside him as they watched the distant stars. "You have proven that a human can achieve extraordinary things," she said softly. "Not through weapons, not through technology, not through fear, but through wisdom, courage, and clarity of thought. That is a lesson the galaxy will not forget." Kale looked at her, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on his shoulders. "I only hope I can continue to live up to your trust," he said. The Queen smiled faintly. "You already have, and yet I suspect this is only the beginning. Greater challenges lie ahead and the galaxy will continue to test you. But I have faith, Kale. I chose wisely when I selected you." For the first time, Kale realized the true magnitude of his journey. He was no longer merely a human in an alien world. He was a bridge, a source of insight, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve when guided by morality, courage, and reason. And as the stars shimmered above the palace, he understood that his story, the story of a human changing the course of an empire, was only beginning. After the crisis with the rogue fleet, Kale's reputation within the palace grew steadily. Those who had once doubted his abilities now approached him with cautious respect, and some even sought his counsel in matters far beyond the recent threat. Despite his growing influence, Kale remained the same calm, thoughtful human he had always been. He did not flaunt his abilities or seek attention. He acted because he understood the importance of responsibility, fairness, and clear thinking. The Queen observed him closely, noting how effortlessly he navigated challenges that had perplexed the most seasoned aliens. She had chosen him not for his strength, not for advanced powers, but for his character. And each day, Kale proved her instincts correct. One morning, the Queen summoned him to the Imperial Council chamber. The room was massive, filled with holographic displays of planets, fleets, and trade routes. Alien ministers from across the Empire had gathered to discuss the growing tensions with neighboring systems. Some species were wary of the Empire's strength, while others sought to exploit past conflicts for personal gain. The air was thick with political tension, and even the most experienced diplomats found themselves uncertain of the best course of action. Kale entered the chamber quietly, his presence immediately noticed by all. He observed the discussions, noting subtle cues, a flicker of hesitation in a minister's tone, a slight twitch in an ambassador's posture, a pattern in the way proposals were presented. While others argued loudly over minor points, Kale focused on the underlying dynamics, the hidden motives, and the true needs of each party. Finally, he spoke. "We cannot resolve this through threats or pressure alone," he said, his voice calm and measured. "We must understand each party's concerns and offer solutions that address the root of the conflict. If we act aggressively, we risk provoking resentment and retaliation. If we act with insight and fairness, we can achieve lasting agreements that benefit all." The chamber fell silent. Many ministers had grown used to Kale's quiet wisdom, but even now, his ability to perceive complex dynamics impressed them. A few skeptical generals exchanged glances, unsure if a human could truly navigate political intrigue on such a scale. Kale continued. "For instance, Ambassador Thorin seeks security guarantees for his planet. Minister Val is concerned about resource allocation. If we combine protections with trade incentives, we can satisfy both parties without compromising the Empire's interests. It will require careful coordination, but it is possible." The Queen's eyes shone with approval. Kale's approach was subtle but effective. It avoided confrontation, minimized risk, and achieved results that brute force or coercion could never accomplish. Slowly, the ministers began to listen, revising their strategies according to Kale's advice. The meeting, once tense and argumentative, began to move toward solutions that were mutually beneficial. In the following weeks, Kale played an active role in diplomacy. He communicated with representatives from various systems, listened to their concerns, and proposed strategies that built trust rather than fear. His actions gradually reshaped the way the Empire interacted with other species. Diplomats who had once approached negotiations with suspicion now approached with respect and even curiosity. Kale's influence extended quietly, subtly, and powerfully. But Kale's growing role also drew attention from those who were less inclined to embrace change. Some ministers and military leaders continued to see him as an outsider, a human who could never truly understand the complexities of the Empire. They whispered in secret, attempting to undermine him, questioning the Queen's judgment. One evening, as Kale worked in the palace archives, A senior minister approached him cautiously. "Human," the minister said, lowering their voice, "you have done well in recent matters, but some believe your influence is dangerous. They fear your methods, your insight, and the way you sway the Queen's decisions." Kale looked up calmly. "I do not seek influence for myself. I act to prevent harm and promote fairness. If others doubt my methods, that is their choice. I cannot control their opinions, only my actions." The minister nodded slowly, wisely said, "Still, be careful. Not everyone will accept the change you bring." Kale understood the warning but remained steadfast. His focus was on the greater good, not personal safety or popularity. And in the days that followed, he continued to implement policies and strategies that strengthened the empire without causing unnecessary conflict. One significant challenge emerged when a distant star system requested immediate intervention. A minor rebellion had erupted, threatening to destabilize the region. Military commanders urged swift action, calling for a show of force to suppress the rebellion quickly. Kale, however, proposed a different approach. "Rushing to violence will create lasting resentment," he explained. "Instead, we should offer assistance to the population, address their grievances, and present options for peaceful resolution. Force should be a last resort, not the first choice. We must win loyalty, not fear." The Queen considered his words carefully. "You propose a path that requires patience and diplomacy, yet we face the risk of further unrest if we delay. Can your plan succeed?" Kale nodded. "It will require careful coordination, but it is possible. We will need to show understanding, provide security, and establish trust. In doing so, we gain allies rather than enemies." The Queen approved the plan, assigning Kale to oversee its execution. He worked with diplomats, engineers, and local leaders, listening to concerns, offering solutions, and building confidence. Slowly, the rebellion lost momentum. Leaders who had once resisted the empire began to cooperate, citizens felt safer, and peace was restored without a single unnecessary battle. Word of Kale's success spread throughout the empire. His reputation as a problem solver, a strategist, and a leader grew steadily. Even those who had doubted him now recognized that his human perspective, grounded in observation, empathy, and reasoning, offered a unique and valuable approach to governance. Meanwhile, the Queen's admiration for Kale deepened. She often observed him in private, noting how effortlessly he balanced compassion with strategy. He did not seek praise, nor did he manipulate situations for personal gain. His influence came from his character, his insight, and his willingness to act with integrity even when it was difficult. As Kale's role expanded, he began to understand the full scope of his responsibilities. He was no longer just an emissary. He was a bridge between species, a source of guidance in times of crisis, and a model for what humans could achieve in a galaxy that often underestimated them. Every action he took reinforced the idea that courage, insight, and morality could accomplish what raw power could not. One afternoon, a crisis emerged within the palace itself. A sudden energy fluctuation threatened the main power core, which supplied the entire city with energy. Engineers scrambled to contain the anomaly, but the situation was complex and dangerous. Kale rushed to the control room, analyzing data, tracing patterns, and identifying the cause of the disruption. With calm precision, he directed the engineers, coordinating actions that stabilized the core and prevented a catastrophic failure. The entire city was saved, and Kale's quick thinking and decisive action earned the gratitude of thousands. Once again, he had proven that human ingenuity and courage could solve problems that even advanced alien systems struggled to manage. The Queen, who observed the incident from her chambers, allowed herself a rare smile. "A human," she whispered to herself, "has saved an entire city through observation, reasoning, and courage. Truly, I have chosen wisely." Kale's influence continued to grow, Yet he remained humble. He did not see himself as extraordinary. He acted because it was necessary. He mentored younger diplomats, advised generals, and guided the queen in matters both practical and moral. Slowly, the palace and the empire began to reflect his approach, measured, thoughtful, and fair. Conflicts were resolved without unnecessary force. Alliances were strengthened through understanding, and the citizens of the empire began to see hope where fear had once prevailed. Despite his successes, Kale remained aware that challenges were never-ending. The galaxy was vast, full of threats both known and unseen. Rogue fleets, political conspiracies, and ancient rivalries could erupt at any moment. Yet he faced each challenge with courage and clarity, guided by his principles and the trust placed in him by the Queen. One evening, as Kale walked through the palace gardens, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a simple life on a distant planet to the halls of an empire that spanned the stars, he realized that being human was not a weakness, it was his greatest strength. His ability to think, to feel, to act with integrity, and to face the unknown with courage had earned him respect and influence in a world that had once dismissed him. The Queen joined him quietly, standing beside him as they gazed at the glowing plants and distant stars. "You have changed the palace," she said softly. "Not through force, not through power, but through your insight, courage, and character. The empire itself feels different because of you." Kale looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. "I only acted as I thought was right," he said. "I did not seek change, only to help." The Queen smiled faintly. "And yet you have achieved more than many could in centuries. The galaxy may not yet understand the value of a human, but here, among us, your presence has made a difference. That difference will continue to grow." Kale nodded, feeling a sense of purpose settle over him. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy. New threats would emerge, difficult decisions would arise, and the pressures of leadership would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But he also knew that he was ready. He had learned, adapted, and proven that human insight, courage, and integrity could change the course of events in ways that brute force or advanced technology could never achieve. As night fell over the palace, Kale stood in quiet reflection. The glowing gardens and the alien sky seemed to stretch endlessly before him, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy and the challenges yet to come. He understood that his journey was far from over, but he also knew that he had already begun to leave a mark of hope, wisdom, and the quiet, unassuming power of humanity. In that moment, Kale realized that the Queen had chosen not just an emissary, but a human capable of shaping the future of an empire. His presence, insight, and courage were already changing the palace, the empire, and potentially the galaxy itself. And though he could not see the full extent of what lay ahead, he was ready to face it with the same calm determination that had carried him this far. The Empire was beginning to see the value of the human spirit, not in power or weaponry, but in wisdom, courage, and unwavering integrity. Kale had become a symbol of what humans could achieve when their character was trusted and their insight respected. And as the stars shimmered above the palace, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge the galaxy and reveal the hidden potential of humanity in ways no one could yet imagine. The Empire had grown stronger under Kale's influence, yet the galaxy remained unpredictable. Beyond the outer systems, a shadow was gathering. Reports arrived of a massive fleet moving in secret, far more organized and dangerous than any rogue force the Empire had encountered before. Unlike previous threats, this fleet did not make direct contact. It moved carefully, silently, with the precision of beings who had studied every possible response. The Queen, who had faced countless adversaries in her long reign, recognized the danger immediately. This was not a simple rebellion or political challenge. It was a threat that could test the empire to its limits. She called Kale to her private chambers. The room glimmered with holographic stars, and the distant hum of the palace's energy core filled the air. "Kale," she said, her voice steady but grave, "we are facing a threat unlike any before. This fleet is massive, coordinated, and deliberate. Our usual measures may not be enough. We need insight, strategy, and understanding. I trust you to guide us." Kale studied the reports, scanning fleet movements, energy signatures, and possible weak points. Unlike the palace generals who instinctively prepared for battle, Kale approached the problem with calm reasoning. He noticed patterns that others overlooked, how the fleet avoided certain regions, the subtle signals exchanged between vessels, and a repeating formation that suggested a hidden plan. "They are not attacking blindly," Kale explained. "They are testing, learning, and searching for vulnerabilities. Any rash response could play into their hands. We need a strategy that combines defense, intelligence, and subtle influence. Force alone will not guarantee victory." The Queen nodded, recognizing the wisdom in his words. "Then we act according to your guidance. Prepare our forces but follow your plan." Kale worked tirelessly. He coordinated the Empire's fleets, established advanced sensor networks, and devised subtle energy barriers that guided the approaching fleet's path. He studied their signals, anticipating maneuvers and planning responses that minimized risk. He worked with diplomats to open communication channels, seeking opportunities to avoid conflict while maintaining security. Despite his careful planning, tension grew. The palace was filled with anxious generals and ministers. Some whispered doubts, questioning whether a human could manage such a formidable threat. Others worried that Kale's unorthodox methods might fail under pressure. Kale remained calm, focusing on observation, analysis, and clear decision-making. He had learned that fear and doubt could cloud judgment, and he refused to allow either to influence his actions. Then the moment arrived. The fleet appeared near the outer system, their ships vast, black, and silent. Sensors lit up with countless readings and alarms echoed through the palace. Generals prepared weapons, ready for immediate combat. Kale raised a hand, signaling for patience. "Observe," he said quietly. "They are probing our defenses, not attacking. Watch the energy signatures. Watch the formations. There is a rhythm to their movements. We can guide them without bloodshed." Using carefully calculated energy fields, Kale subtly adjusted the fleet's path, guiding the ships along corridors that avoided key planets and minimized risk. Communication channels were opened cautiously, and the fleet responded, revealing a surprising truth. They were seeking parley, not immediate conquest. Their leaders had assumed the Empire would respond with aggression, but Kale's strategy had created an opening for dialogue. Negotiations began, tense and uncertain. Alien representatives from both sides argued, tested, and challenged each other. Kale observed silently, noting patterns of deception, hesitation, and genuine concern. He advised the Queen on when to speak, when to remain silent, and when to offer concessions that would protect the Empire without sacrificing dignity or security. The discussions stretched over several days. Kale's insight allowed the Queen to identify the fleet's hidden motives: an ancient dispute over trade routes, miscommunications with former allies, and a desire to test the Empire's strength. Using this understanding, Kale proposed solutions that addressed these concerns while preserving the Empire's interests. At a critical moment, one of the fleet's leaders attempted to bluff, presenting a threat that could have provoked immediate retaliation. Kale recognized the deception and guided the Queen's response, revealing the bluff without confrontation. The fleet's leader, realizing they had been anticipated, conceded. The negotiations shifted from tension to collaboration, and ultimately, a peaceful resolution was achieved. The fleet agreed to withdraw under carefully negotiated terms, leaving the Empire secure and respected. The palace erupted in relief. Ministers, generals, and diplomats alike acknowledged Kale's role. For the first time, Some openly admitted that a human had achieved what centuries of experience and advanced technology had not. Kale, however, remained quiet, observing the aftermath with calm satisfaction. The queen summoned him to the observation deck, where the twin moons cast gentle light across the glowing gardens. "Kale," she said softly, "your insight, courage, and integrity have preserved the empire and avoided a war that could have devastated countless lives. You have shown that true strength is not measured by weapons or power alone, but by wisdom, understanding, and the ability to act decisively with morality." Kale bowed slightly. "I only did what I could, Your Majesty. I acted to protect life and preserve peace. That is all I know to do." The queen studied him, her expression one of quiet admiration. "And yet that is enough. Your humanity, your courage, your reasoning, your compassion has proven to be more powerful than any weapon or fleet. You have changed the way this empire views strength and leadership. The galaxy will not forget it." In the days that followed, Kale continued to strengthen the empire's defenses and diplomatic ties. He mentored young diplomats, trained advisors in observation and strategic reasoning, and shared insights that bridged cultural gaps. His influence reshaped the court subtly but profoundly. Decisions became more thoughtful, alliances more stable, and disputes resolved with clarity and fairness. Despite his successes, Kale remained humble. He did not see himself as extraordinary, only as someone willing to act with integrity and courage. Yet the queen and the council recognized that his presence had changed the course of the empire. Alien ministers who had once dismissed him now sought his guidance. Generals deferred to his analysis. Citizens across the empire began to see humans not as fragile outsiders, but as beings capable of wisdom and leadership. One evening, the queen joined Kale in the palace gardens. The glowing plants reflected soft light, and the twin moons hung above in serene silence. "Kale," she said, "you have become more than an emissary. You are a symbol, a reminder that courage, morality, and insight can achieve what brute force cannot. You have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of." Kale looked out across the gardens, feeling the weight of her words. "I only wish to serve Your Majesty. I do not seek recognition or power, only to act as I believe is right." The queen smiled. "And that is why you are extraordinary. In a galaxy that measures strength by fleets and weapons, you have shown that true power lies in wisdom, courage, and compassion. You have redefined what it means to be strong, and the empire, and the galaxy will be better for it." Kale understood then that his journey had reached a turning point. He had arrived as a human in an alien empire, underestimated and overlooked. Through observation, reasoning, and integrity, he had navigated threats that others could not, resolved conflicts that seemed impossible, and built bridges where walls once stood. His presence had reshaped the empire and demonstrated the hidden potential of humanity in ways that no one had anticipated. In the weeks that followed, Kale's influence extended even further. He traveled with the queen to distant systems, mediating disputes, reinforcing alliances, and ensuring stability. Each mission revealed new challenges, yet Kale faced them with the same calm determination and insight that had guided him from the beginning. He became a mentor, a strategist, and a source of inspiration for countless beings across the galaxy. Through it all, Kale remained human, grounded, humble, and thoughtful. He did not rely on advanced technology or overwhelming power. His strength lay in observation, reasoning, and the courage to act with integrity even when others doubted him. The galaxy, which had once dismissed humans as weak and inconsequential, began to see them in a new light. Kale had become a living testament to the potential of humanity, a reminder that wisdom, compassion, and courage could shape the future even in the most complex and alien worlds. The queen often reflected on her decision. She had chosen a human because she saw beyond appearances and perceived value. Others had doubted her choice, Yet Kale had proven her instincts right. He had demonstrated that strength is not measured by power alone, but by the ability to understand, to act decisively, and to inspire others through integrity. In the quiet moments, Kale would stand on the observation deck, looking at the distant stars and reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. From a simple life on Earth to the halls of an empire that spanned countless systems, he realized that being human was not a limitation, it was his greatest strength. His ability to perceive patterns, understand motivations, and act with moral clarity had allowed him to influence events on a scale few could imagine. As the twin moons rose over the palace, casting soft light across the glowing gardens, Kale felt a sense of fulfillment. He had faced extraordinary challenges, guided an empire through crises, and revealed the hidden potential of humanity to the galaxy. Yet he also understood that the journey was ongoing. New threats, challenges, and opportunities would arise, but he was ready. He would continue to act with integrity, courage, and wisdom, knowing that humanity's true power lay not in domination, but in understanding, empathy, and decisive action guided by conscience. The Queen joined him quietly, standing beside him as they gazed at the stars. "Kale," she said softly, "the galaxy will remember you, not just as a human who succeeded in an alien world, but as a being whose character, insight, and courage changed the course of history. You have proven what humans can achieve, and that legacy will endure." Kale nodded, feeling the weight and honor of her words. "I only acted as I believed was right," he said. "I hope it is enough." "It is more than enough," the Queen replied. "It is extraordinary." And so, under the glow of twin moons and endless stars, Kale stood as a testament to the hidden potential of humanity, a human whose courage, insight, and integrity had not only preserved an empire but reshaped the galaxy's understanding of what it truly meant to be strong. The empire had found a new path, guided not by fear, not by power alone, but by wisdom, morality, and the quiet, unwavering courage of a human who dared to act with integrity in a universe that often underestimated him. And in that moment, Kale understood that his story was not just his own. It was the story of humanity's potential, shining brightly among the stars.